Learn how to create, sustain, and scale up your print-on-demand business with the latest tips, guides, and strategies to help you start selling and making money today. Welcome to the Sales on Demand Show. And here's your host, Adam Schneider.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 42 of the Sales on Demand Show. My name is Adam Schneider, and I am your one and only host of this wonderful show. So today, we're going to be talking about something that has actually been on my mind for years now. I'm going to talk about doing this full-time, e-commerce full-time. So I'm going to be kind of wandering down some story paths here, and I think it'll be interesting for you guys. You'll get to know a little bit more about me, I guess, only because this definitely is a personal topic, and I really think that talking about this will help you, decide what you want to do with your, if you're building a business, what's the purpose of your business? What are you planning to achieve? Because if you don't know where you want to go, you're just going to get bogged down in the details. And I see this all the time. People are just, they get distracted and they forget why they're doing it, and they get frustrated and quit. And to be honest with you, there's probably, I hate to try and guess how many people have started this and then quit, but I would say 9 out of 10 people get started selling online, they get frustrated, or they get bored, or they get distracted, and they quit. And you know what? That's fine. That's how people work, right? But the ones that stick with it are the ones that are making money today. So currently, it is still pre-shopping time. Of course, I talked about the 3 phases of Christmas a couple of weeks ago, I think. And I told you about pre-shopping. It's when you look on your Etsy store and Amazon, you'll see lots of people visiting your listings, but I mean, the buying frenzy hasn't quite started yet. On the other hand, if you're seeing a lot of people buying, that's a good sign, because you're going to see that increase when the actual good times start rolling. And I got to share with you, I've never seen this before. One of the new people who are selling with the low-hanging system, which is the training course that I took, I think this is a guy. I'm not sure. You never know with some of these people's names. It's a Slavic-looking name. Anyway, this person launched one product on Etsy and made a sale that day. And all of us were like, you have one product listing and it's already sold? That's phenomenal. You literally cannot do better than that. I don't want to say it's beginner's luck, but that's insanely good. You literally cannot do better than having one product and getting a sale on it. It is impossible for you to do better than that. Maybe 2 sales would be better than that, but I mean, as a beginner, to do that is that's pretty good. And it's quite possible to do that, although it's not usual. I think I had, I'm pretty sure I had less than 10 listings when I got my first sale, but it wasn't, the same day. I just kind of left my Etsy store sitting there, and then, all of a sudden, one day I had a sale, and I was like, oh, right, yeah, I should probably do something with this. And I started working on it, and of course, you get more sales when you start working on your store. So anyway, that was kind of a funny and interesting thing that happened. And it shows the power of Christmas, man. Christmas is really fantastic. And there's no working and adding listings during Christmas is the most effective time to do it. Because you start to see what people are shopping for, and you can expand and offer more of the same products that people are already buying. So for me, I've been sitting in front of my computer, and my eyes are getting blurry today, actually. And I've been adding new products. I've been adding a bunch of customized products, and I'm trying to add things that I know will sell based on what has been selling before and what people are buying now. And I'm starting to hit some nice winners. I added 3 products the other day, just based on something I saw online, just randomly. I always save these things on my phone, and people are adding them as favorites. I'm selling like 1 or 2 a day, and I'm like, sweet, man. I'm like, okay, I got to add more stuff like that. So it's always a struggle to find the time to add the ideas that you have. So that's what's happening for me in my selling world. But I also am working towards something else that is 100% unrelated to selling. I'm getting back into the Army Reserve. And this is a personal project that I've been in the process of for almost a year now. And I can't believe that it's actually been a year. But I look back and it's just about been a full year. And I don't know. The government can be, really slow, but at least it's moving forward. And I guess I'm just a little bit more patient than I used to be because, there was a time where I would just be chomping at the bit if it took a year to do something. But joining the Army Reserve is something, and I don't need to do this for money. And to be honest with you, I questioned myself about why I wanted to do this. But truthfully, I just wanted the adventure of it. It's something that I did before. I was in the Army Reserve before, except I was doing paperwork, so I was a clerk, and I was like, well, I don't want to go back as a clerk. I want to go back as someone, like a combat trade. So I'm going back in. I'm going as a armored crewman, which means I get to do all of the fun things that the infantry do. Except I get to drive there instead of walk there. No, I'm kidding. The infantry have armored vehicles too. Basically, this is a lot like the infantry. Same tactics, same kind of maneuvers, same weapon systems, platforms. The armored vehicles are pretty similar, except we have slightly larger guns, I guess, on the armored vehicles. I don't really know what the real distinction is between infantry and armored, but there is a distinction, and I suppose it's in the tactics. I guess I'll have to wait and see what it's like to get in there. But I'm very excited about it. Very, very, very excited. And it is a long process to get in. And it's one of these things that I just suddenly, I'm like, you know what? I'm 40 years old, and I have a comfortable job. I drive around all day. I don't even have to wear a jacket most of the time. If I got to get out of the vehicle, it's only for 5 minutes at a time, and I can handle being cold for 5 minutes and then come back and get warm. I used to have a job where, I was wearing a jacket, long johns, and toques and everything because I was walking outside in the cold. But I don't have that job anymore. So I was like, I need something to keep my edge. And this seemed like a good idea. And there was kind of a little bit more of a long-term strategy with this as well. And I'll get into that in a bit about why this is part of my long-term strategy for my life. So, of course, currently, just as I said, I'm working full-time and I'm doing this on the side. And I'm kind of trying to plan out the next 10 or 20 years of my life. And I've got 3 options ahead of me. And they're all of them pretty good. But they're all so vastly different that I just don't really know which option I want to take. And it involves the possibility of doing e-commerce or, sales full time. For the last 3 years, all I wanted to do was do this full time. And only just recently have I changed my mind on that. And I kind of changed my mind for a few reasons. And the first reason is I realized that working from home, it may sound like a dream job, but it actually sounds kind of boring, to be honest with you. I don't like sitting at a desk for a long period of time, although I am a gamer, so I can sit and play a video game. It's not good for you to do that, but I can do it. But running a business is not a game. And you just, like, sitting at a desk can be, it's just not what I envision doing with my life. You know what I mean? I'm not a desk guy. I need to be out doing things. And to be honest with you, I kind of like doing dangerous and risky things, but, with a purpose, right? So hence joining the military is, slightly risky. It's adventurous. It's the reserves, of course. I'm not planning on going to, Afghanistan anytime soon. In fact, I'm absolutely against going to Afghanistan. I don't believe Canadians should be in Afghanistan, and I'm kind of glad we're closing that down. Anyway, but you still learn, and you get to shoot, and you get to play Army, I guess. And that, to me, seems like an adventure. And it was kind of part of my long-term strategy that if I did go full-time, at least I would have the Army as something that's cool and, like, dangerous. And people look at me like, hey, you're still in the Army. That's cool, man. That's cool. And I'd look at myself and be like, yeah, no, I still got my edge. I'm not going to turn into a fat slob sitting at home in front of my computer. That's my biggest fear in life, is that I will become this pudgy, pale, like, nerd sitting at home and never be fit and eat garbage all my days. I just don't want that. In fact, I'd rather not be rich if I knew that becoming rich would turn me into that person. I do not want to be that person, and I would turn down being wealthy if it meant that I wouldn't also become like a slob. And honestly, you might think I'm vain about my looks, but I'm just conscious about my health. And I want to live a long and happy life, and I don't want to have chronic diseases, and I want to do fun things. I like going out and being able to climb mountains. Every summer I go and I spend 10 days or sometimes even 20 days with a bunch of kids out in the mountains, and it's a kind of a point of pride of mine that I can keep up with them and sometimes even do better than they do when it comes to endurance and strength and basically mental, the will to carry on when you're tired. So yeah, I want to keep doing that. I don't want to slow down. I want to maintain a high level of activity. And, my son is very active. He loves skating, and I want to be there for him. And I just want to be able to look in the mirror, when I'm 60 and be like, I like who I am. So anyway, I know that was kind of a rambly thing, but that is kind of my current state of mind. And I know for some of you guys and gals out there, you're probably not going to be able to relate to that. But for me, going full-time into this kind of business just didn't seem like a good idea. And I know I probably could. Even not just full-time selling, but coaching or writing or doing any kind of online job. I know I could make decent money doing it. It's just that I don't really want to do that. I don't want to be at home all the time, just sitting in my computer and always be working. I just don't think I would be responsible if I was doing that. I'd kind of be, I would be always working and probably doing it in an unhealthy way. I need structure. So I'm going to talk about 3 options that you can basically go into for a online career, I guess. 3 different ways to kind of go about this. And I think this will help you. I'm hoping that this will help you decide where you want selling online to fit into your life. So, yeah. All right, let's option 1. Option 1 is kind of the option that I'm going with for now. And again, this could change. But it's basically goes find a career that you like and then do whatever selling you do on the side. And the reason I think that this is a great option is because income from selling is always unreliable. You've probably heard me say that, oh yeah, sales are really slow right now, or it's really hot right now. And it's like, it never seems to be just sort of average. It's always like slow or crazy. And you just can't really rely on a steady income. And most people build their budgets around that. So personally for me, this is great because my job pays the bills and everything else I earn is gravy. So I can just keep recycling the money I make from this. Now I am saving it up to kind of pay off some debt, and I should have all of the money available to pay off debt by probably next June. And that will mean I will have paid off $80,000 in debt in 2.5 years, which is crazy. But here's the thing, I don't have to pay off the debt. I would just like to, and then I'll be debt free. But I can also use some of the money to buy a house, or I can, just keep the money and keep building a business. I am planning on starting an account with Amazon Japan and sending some products to Japan. And the reason I'm planning to do that is I don't want to put all my eggs in the American basket, which is where they all are right now. In case something happens to the American dollar, I'll have other locations and other, selling platforms that are just completely different. So that's one of my plans, and we'll just see how things work out over Christmas and go from there. So that's kind of my favorite thing. And because unless you're teaching how to do these kinds of things, I know there are some people out there who they teach other people how to sell, and that is an option, and it is an option for me. I mean, I could just take this podcast and just go hard with it and create a whole bunch of courses and try to get people on the courses. I'm just having too much fun working. I just like the job and the type of work I do too much right now to divert my focus to that. And that is something I could do down the road. But again, this business changes quickly. And of course, keeping up with students and stuff like that, that's a lot of work. And I've realized that over the last year because I was, of course, building some training. And I still plan on building a training course. It's just how I'm going to deliver it that I'm sort of on the fence on. Either it's going to be a huge, big training course that it's going to be very intensive and hands-on, or it's going to be more of a beginner course where you work through some video series, you join the Facebook group, and then you get a little bit of coaching. So that I'm still working through how that's going to work out. Of course, my time will be a little bit more dear to me as I start training with the Army, but I just need to practice better time management, really. I have plenty of time. It's just how I spend my time that makes a difference. So that's kind of what I'm the option one kind of guy, finding a career I like that has nothing to do with sales. And I do this on the side. And it's kind of fun that I do this on the side because I talk to people at work all the time and they're always asking me, oh, how's your coffee mug business doing? And I'm like, great. And I'm like, yeah, I just made $200 a day. And they're like, what? Really? And they're really intrigued about it. But none of them have ever actually, wanted to do it or anything like that. My family, on the other hand, both of my brothers apparently have been listening to the podcast, which is interesting. I never expected that. And I'm impressed, actually, that both of them have been listening. And my second oldest brother, he even commented, he's like, it's weird because I feel like I'm listening to myself talk. And I thought, yeah, that would be weird. Listening to a podcast and you're like, I don't remember saying that. But anyway, both of my brothers are pretty diligent. They're both younger than me, and I gotta say, I don't think I got the best looks out of the three of us. I think my younger brother has the best looks, but I've got I don't know. I like what I do for a living, and both of my brothers do something different. So anyway, option 2. So option 2, this is the one that's most likely going to be what people will do. And that's because most people, quite frankly, hate their job. And I'm sorry, but it's true. And I don't know. I want to scold people for being like this, but I can't, because I was in this boat. And I had a good paying job, and it was a job that people really, really wanted. A lot of people would have happily accepted the job that I had, but I've been doing it for 10 years, and I was like, you know what? I don't love this anymore. In fact, I'm starting to hate it. And I'm like, I need to get out of this. I feel like it's physically crushing me. It's just grinding me down, and I want to get out so bad. And so when I first started doing sales online, I was motivated like you wouldn't believe. I was like, oh man, I'm just motivated by all the frustrations at work, and I'd come home and I'd spend 2 hours just hammering away at this. And it's kind of how I made a lot of my early success, particularly last year. And of course, the very first year, I did decently well. Not as well as some do, but I did okay. So basically, option 2 is work at the job that you hate and commit at least 3 years to build a juicy nest egg, pay off some debt or put some money aside, and then potentially go full time. Now, this is my rule of thumb, because you might think by the way I talk that I'm very risk tolerant, but I'm not that risk tolerant. I'm willing to risk, but only things that I don't mind losing. I won't risk my livelihood over anything. So what I would expect from my business is I would expect double my normal job salary in order for me to feel comfortable going full time with any business adventure. So I would say double. And there's a reason that I say double your, profit margin, not the revenue. Like, I'm making, $4,000 or $5,000 a month in sales, but that's not profit. That's just revenue. So you need to calculate what your net profit is and really drive that number up. And then it has to be double your current salary for you to really be able to do this successfully. And that's my opinion, but I think my opinion is valid because of the following thing. First of all, working for yourself always costs more than working for someone else. This is a fact. And maybe you save a little bit of money on your pardon me. You save a little bit of money on driving to work and stuff, but most people don't really spend a lot of money getting to work. But your job typically provides benefits that you will not have access to when you leave your job. So my job provides me with medical benefits, and I get dental benefits. I get life insurance and a whole bunch of just intangible benefits that I don't really know how to calculate the cost of, but it's probably another $10,000 a year, to be honest with you. And then you're going to have to pay, you're going to have a lot of costs related to the business that you wouldn't have with a job. So you're going to have accounting costs. So every year you got to file your tax statements, and you got to decide, how much money you're going to take out as income and all this stuff and shares. I don't even know about all that stuff. So this is my first year as an actual corporation, and I'm sure that this is going to be an absolute dumpster fire of a year for me because I've never done corporate taxes before and I don't know what to do. So yeah, it'll be fun. But the other thing that you need to consider is that your business needs cash to grow. You never want to be in a position where you're just barely making enough revenue to cover your expenses, because then if if you see opportunity and you're like, man, if I sent, these 3 products in for fulfillment by Amazon, I could start, racking up a bunch more money. If you have just enough money to cover your expenses, you don't have any extra money to grow. And you can't do things like open up another Amazon account in Japan and start selling there because you won't have cash to do it. You'll be kind of stuck at whatever level you are now, or, your growth rate will be severely curtailed by, the lack of cash. Now, this isn't such a big problem if you're selling on Etsy, and this is where a lot of full-time sellers actually make most of their money, which is interesting because Amazon has the most customers, but there are more people selling full-time on Etsy. And I guess that's because if you work at Etsy, if you work hard on your Etsy store, you can really scale it up. But then you have to keep working at it. The people who devote the most time to Etsy are the ones who make the most money. On Amazon, on the other hand, you might have some, top selling items and you send them for FBA and you just collect the paychecks. And that's me. I just like collecting the paychecks. Send me the money, but you need to have lots of cash in order to make those FBA stock purchases. Whereas on Etsy, you don't need as much cash because Etsy pays you. In fact, they'll pay you as often as every second day. So you can quickly scale up an Etsy store without having a lot of cash. And a couple of people that I know of, they're running during the slow times, they're running $10,000 a month. And during the busy, crazy time, they're doing like $100,000 or more in sales in a month. And I know one lady, she's like, yeah, I want to do $250,000 this Christmas on Etsy. She doesn't even sell on Amazon. And I'm like, okay, good luck. I hope you get that. So just to reiterate that option, it's, committing to a job, even if you don't like the job, or, committing to work at any job, and give yourself at least 3 years to build up a little nest egg, learn the business, and, get basically double your salary, and then quit and go full time. And I always like to have 2 streams of income. I always tell people, never rely on one thing as your income stream. And honestly, I don't count Amazon and Etsy as 2 different things. They're kind of the same thing. I would say maybe they're the same thing. Maybe they're not. It's hard to really judge that. Some people do make quite a bit of money selling on Etsy, and then Amazon is extra. So anyway, you have to kind of judge your own risk tolerance for that too. So option 3, and this is the one that I'm seeing the top sellers doing. You're already, kind of a stay-at-home person, or you don't have a job and you aren't planning to get a job, or the kinds of jobs that you could get would be just low-paying crap jobs, like, okay, mopping the floor at your local gas station. I don't know. That's a suck job. If that's the only job that you can get, you might as well, do it for a few months and then, but if you can pay your bills with that job, well, that's something. But, you can easily get out of that and work from home. So what you got to do, if you're going to pick option 3 and you're like, I want to just go into this full time, you got to commit to this. And you gotta treat this like you're gonna die tomorrow, and every product you sell gets you another hour of life. So you are working your tail off like 16 hours a day. And you are at your computer 16 hours a day working at this. And you're doing it until you succeed. Oh, that actually reminds me of a movie. There was some movie with Justin Timberlake. And they had to go to work and they would get extra time to live or something like that. It was kind of an interesting movie. It came out a few years ago. It was on Netflix. Anyway, if you remember that movie, you'll know what I mean. If not, then just pretend I didn't say that. But this option really works best for someone who is very motivated and they are already a little bit tech savvy and have probably already done some kind of selling already. And it certainly doesn't hurt if you have some retirement income or you've got some other income stream that can at least mostly pay the bills, because it does still take some time to build up this business. It's going to take you like 8 to 9 months at least. And that is if you are as good as the top sellers that I know of. If you're not as good as these people, you're probably not going to achieve that full-time status in 8 or 9 months. It's probably going to take you like 2-3 years. So this is not something that I think everybody is even cut out for. I mean, I know people who are selling, and they've been selling since I started. And, they've just made 1,000 sales, and that's it. And they're proud of that, and they should be proud of that, because 1,000 sales, that's like $20,000 in sales, right? That's over 3 years, though. I did $20,000 in sales just in the last month of 2018, and I'm planning to do 4 times that this Christmas. So, I mean, you're not going to build a business if that's your expectations, or if that's what you're capable of. But you know what? That's nice money on the side. Cash is cash. So this should tell you that even people who are not very tech savvy, not very imaginative, and really don't know much about business, you can still make a decent side income off of this. And it builds up over time. And once you kind of get your foot in the door, you're pretty much there. Once you have a couple products that sell decently well, you build on that. The very hardest part of this is the getting started. And I see this, it's almost frustrating when new students come and join the Facebook page, because they have no idea what they're doing. They're like, how come Amazon does this? And there's these easy questions that people like me, it's like we look at these things and we're like, oh, well, how come you don't know this? Or how come you don't see this? Like, watch the training. That's the biggest thing I tell people. I'm like, the question that you just asked is covered in the training. Watch it again. And I'll tell you guys as well, if you ever have a question and you think it's been covered in a podcast, all of the podcasts have a nice long sort of description of what I talked about. So go and just do a search on the Sales on Demand Show website, and you'll probably find a podcast relating to your question. I've covered a lot of different topics, and you'll probably find something in there. I don't cover a lot of technical topics because it's a podcast and you can't see what I'm doing, which is why I probably should start making YouTube videos. But anyway, I just don't have time for that right now. So anyway, that's what I've got to say, guys. 3 options and a couple things I want to leave you with. So here's a couple really, really, really important points, takeaways, if you will. So when you're planning out your business, don't try and plan how many sales you're going to make. And this is a mistake I made at the beginning of this year. I was trying to build up my Amazon account and start making, I wanted to get to $1 million. I'm like, I want to get this thing to $1 million in sales. So I started saying, well, if I add this many products, then I should make this many sales. But it didn't quite work out like that. And it could be because, I didn't add as many new products as I should have, or I just wasn't, I'm not sure what happened, but what I really should have been doing instead of trying to plan how many sales I wanted to make was to plan how many new products I wanted to launch. Now, it's fine to have a sales goal and to say, well, I want to reach this number, but you got to decide what kind of actions you're going to take to get there. That's the plan to make. Okay, you can't plan for something that you're not doing. So if your plan relies on other people buying something from you, and you're like, I plan for them to buy this from me, that's not how planning works. You don't get to plan that. it'll happen if you launch a product that sells. But your plan should be what your actions are going to be. So that's one thing. And the other thing I would like to tell you is that you need to cut your expenses down and also realize that your expectations may be way, 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 way off. When I first started doing this, I thought I was going to be doing this full time within 3 months. I was like, this, and I'll be honest, like the sales video for the low-hanging system, Rachel Raffay, she's a wonderful lady. She's a great coach. She had an easy time building this. Most people don't have that easy of a time. And I was one of these people. Like, I was a dunce when it came to building this business. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I was like, well, how come I'm not making $100,000 a year, man? This sucks. And I was kind of upset about that. But then I realized, well, I don't have any cash to build this business. And there's a lot of people that get into this business and they get upset when Amazon charges them $40 a month. And they're like, I was told that you do not need any money to build this business. And I was like, what? Who told you that? Is somebody telling you that you don't need money to build this business? What? Why would somebody tell you that? Of course you need some money to build this business. And that's a good thing. I mean, it's not like you're risking money. It's just that when somebody orders something, you have to pay for it first and then send it to them. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not like you're going out and renting a store or something like that. You're just, you're putting out maybe $100 here and there. Maybe $100 here and there. For the most part, you really don't need to spend a lot of money, but there are some things that you should spend money on. Having the Amazon Pro seller account is one of those things. So your expectations for this business will have a huge impact on what you get out of it. If you expect a lot, you probably will be disappointed. Some people do really well in their first year, but because they sit down and work really hard. And some people sit down and work really hard and don't do well. And they're like, well, how come I'm not doing well? I should be having thousands of dollars in sales. And I don't know what to tell you. People will buy what they'll buy, right? If you're not putting out the products that people want and people aren't buying them, that's a you problem. And I don't mean to be so blunt, but that's kind of the way it is, right? The people who are successful, they're clever. They have a little bit of ingenuity. They have a little bit of imagination. They instinctively know how to research. They're persistent. They kind of understand selling and the techniques and the kinds of things that people are looking for. And you can still be successful, but you have to learn these things if you don't already know them. So that's it, guys. We'll call it quits there. I know this episode went a little long. I actually thought it would be too short, but I guess it didn't. So with that, come visit the website, salesondemandshow.com, and get out there and get started. It's a great time to start working on Etsy particularly. So let me know how you're doing. Send me a message. It's still not too crazy busy. I'll still respond to some messages. So anyway, cheers.